Hello, SMITE fans, and welcome in to Championship Sunday. We've had a whole week of amazing games coming through to determine the best two teams in each of our regions, and those teams have already punched their ticket to the SMITE World Championship placement round. But now it comes down to a best of 5 to determine who gets the vast majority of that prize pool, $30,000 for the first place team. And that's what they're going to be competing for here today. Agro and Trelli Relli here to break it down. And of course, we're going to be starting in Europe as we have all week long. Cozyx Fanclub, the SOC contenders, not even in the SEC the vast majority of the time, going up against the top seed in Europe, Elysium. Trelli, it's been an incredible run here for Cozyx Fanclub.
Yeah, I mean, Cozyx Fanclub, the 4th seed coming into this whole tournament, and they're going to be in the finals here against Elysium. They already lost to them once. They were able to take a set off them, so this is definitely going to be an exciting finals here.
It's going to be unbelievable. This is what you may have missed. We started on Thursday with Elysium taking the 2-1 over Cozyx Fanclub. It was a Game 1 victory for Cozyx Fanclub in that set, with Elysium then roaring back for a 2-0 victory after that. Elysium did the same up against Joystick, and now are awaiting Cozyx Fanclub in the best of 5 grand finals. And when we take a look at the bracket, you can see that because Elysium came from the top side, they are starting today's match with a 1-game advantage. And Trelli, as we've talked about all week, Game 1 has been the Achilles heel for Elysium, and they already got a win for it.
Yeah, we've been calling it the Elysium passive sort of jokingly, but they have thrown this Game 1, and the question is, since they already started up 1-0, is this going to be a situation where the nerves are already gone, they can play to their best ability, or do they still have to lose that first game before they can really play to their full potential? Adapting was talking to us yesterday about how it's not so much that they enjoy losing the first game, it's just that they realize what they did wrong, they made the mistakes, and they adapted. So
we'll have to see if that's what they're going to be doing here today. As we mentioned, Cozyx Fanclub have been absolutely great, but Elysium are the team to watch in this region because they have been dominant throughout the entire phase. And when you've got names like Adapting and Trix Tank, that's kind of to be expected. But I'm getting flashbacks here, Trelli, to our very first desk on Thursday, because I remember saying those two are going to be really good. But it's really these other players on the team, Angry, Terrorim, and Spudio, those without as much name pedigree, that are doing just as much on this squad.
Oh yeah, Angry's been playing extremely consistent as well as Terram. You can see that I remember this gank was one that came from a big surprise. No sort of teleport, just all the way across the map from the solo lane, was able to help chase down. But that's the thing, I guess you could say not the star-studded roster. They have 2 people that have been in the SPL, as we mentioned, but these guys have been playing extremely consistent, and that is something that you want to see out of your lesser players.
Absolutely. They've been really fantastic so far this LAN. I mean, Spudio has been a big key for the success. Feels like ADCs have been a lot of the focus over in Europe. It's been a really fun region to watch that duo lane really compete. And up against Vaporish Coast, you know that ADC is going to have to make some plays. Trix Tank has been doing it as well. A couple of objective steals in that Ganesh game.
Oh yeah, stole the Gold Fury at one point, stole, I believe, just a red buff right in front of 3, and then did end up stealing that EFG. Didn't matter, they still ended up losing that one in particular, but Trix is going to be, anytime there's an objective on the map and Trix is nearby, you're going to have to be watching your back.
Definitely have to keep track of that support, but on the other side, like I was talking about, Vaporish Coast, obviously been unbelievable during this LAN as expected, but it's really been Rapio. I mean, my man should have 2 pentas in this event. Instead, he has 0, but 2 quadra kills with the final kill being stolen from him at the last moment in both instances. It has been really, really fun to watch this Cozyx Fanclub team because it's been Coast, it's been Rapio, Calvin, Sap has been putting out crazy amounts of damage every game. Azriel, their sub, by the way, not their typical starting solo laner, and they're still here in the grand finals, which I think speaks volumes about how well the entire team has been playing.
Oh yeah, and that first set in particular, B. Azriel was kind of just carrying on that tier pick, and now here we are and we're just going to be looking at Vaporous just popping off so much damage. The Uller in particular, this pick is something that you really need to be watching out for if you're in that duo lane. Coast has been so dominant on it. He's been getting it a few times, but really this last set he just played, he looked unstoppable. I mean, he was doing so much damage.
He was really impressive. Apologies on that. Got my teams mixed up a little bit there. Of course, Bevy Monster was able to take down B. Azrael and Sapin despite how good they were playing. Cozyx Fanclub just a little bit better. I mean, Rapio and Vaporish are the guys we talk about a lot, but Calvin joining in support. Gunter has been a rock in that mid lane, and then Bevy Monster seems to be able to play whatever is necessary in order to get this team ahead. And this team's teamwork, I think, has really impressed me, especially in talking to Coast and Rapio and them saying, look, we were just a couple of guys that weren't in the SEC, and we made a little pickup team, and all of a sudden we started doing pretty well. This team looks like they're on the same page really, really consistently.
Yeah, especially in that last set versus the what we were just mentioning. It was insane how well that Bevy Monster and Calvin were able to work together. It was one of those long games where, any little mistake could have cost the match, but the tank dive in particular, it's really easy to touch on these carries that make these big flashy plays, as we mentioned Rappi with the quadra kill. But if your tanks aren't creating that space for you, if they're not really setting up for you, it's hard to do that. So they look so good because Bevy and Calvin are making these sick dives.
Absolutely, and Bacchus has been a big pick for Calvin. That's something that Trixtank likes as well, as we know, so that could be a point of contention. I mean, Rapio seems to be playing something a little bit differently than a lot of other assassins, playing things like Fenrir and of course the Thanatos that he got that quadra kill on. Those types of picks where adapting is going more for the Hunbats and the Daji and some of the more CC heavy junglers.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a big issue as well, as we've mentioned. Adapting has kind of been unstoppable once he gets his ball rolling.
Unbelievable.
That Daji pick, I mean, I haven't seen anyone be able to shut it down. He kind of just, even into the Nike, which is going to be usually a tough matchup there because once you go into the Palace, he just gets to immune it and get a lot more HP. He just looks like he knows everything. He knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly where to be. If you're Elysium, you should feel very confident coming into this match.
I think so too. And look, this Elysium team has been confident all year long for very good reason because they have absolutely been the best team in this region. But they did go up against Cozyx Fanclub earlier in this LAN and took one loss. And if you remember correctly, that was a lot of dual lane pressure in that game for Cozyx Fanclub. We'll see if that's the strategy as we head into picks and bans for game number 2 of our grand finals. Again, you didn't miss anything. It's that Elysium, by coming from the top side of the bracket, is starting up 1-0. So only need to win 2 more games, whereas Cozyx Fanclub going to need to find 3 in order to be the victors in our grand finals here in this best of 5. Elysium in that first pick position. Cthulhu has obviously been a big talking point in both regions, but Heimdall and Uller, no other hunter seem to be playing Uller as much as Coast is right now, and immediately Elysium actually take away the Heimdall instead of that Uller.
Yeah, I was about to mention, if you're Elysium right now, you got to focus the duo lane. If Coast gets off to this running start, it's going to be, I'm not going to say curtains. There is obviously options for outplay, but whenever Coast is feeling good, whenever he's on a god that he's confident on, like the Heimdall, like the Uller, as we've mentioned, and first of all, that Fenrir, that is a respect ban for sure. We have not seen too many Fenrir bans, but Rapio has had unbelievable performances on this character, so we are going to see that being a point of contention as well. But as I was saying, Coast, if he gets off rolling, that is going to be quite the detriment.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's been a primary win condition for this team during the entire LAN. Izanami banned as well by Cozyx Fanclub. I feel like they banned that pick a lot, trying to get Coast some more dominant lane matchups so that he doesn't just get pushed in by that wave clear. And it's a lot of target bans here in this game. And what? Geb is open, Odin is open, Yamoja is open. There's a lot on the table now in a high-powered picks and bans, and Geb is going to be the first pick for Elysium. And giving Trixtank, who for my money might be the best god in the game right now, is usually a winning formula.
Yeah, absolutely. Geb is one of those Guardians that you kind of want to play a little bit more passively, though. We've seen him on these Sobeks. We've seen him on these Ganeshes, where Ganesh you should play passively as well, but Trix does not. If you guys have seen Trixtank play, he's a W-keyer. He's a go-getter. I believe we described him as a degenerate play style at one point.
Yep.
And what I was saying is this Geb pick kind of wants to stay back, but you can still get that blink and get very aggressive with this Geb pick as well, as we will see Cozyx Fanclub. No surprise there. If Uller's open, first picking it for Coast is going to be it's a no-brainer.
They're going to do it just about every time, so it's Uller Odin, as expected for Cozyx Fanclub. But now you've got a lot open. Yeah, Morrigan Cthulhu is a combo that we see a lot of in the SPL. Both open, maybe for the first time all tournament in both regions, because it feels like one of those two gods is nearly always taken off the board. Geb Morrigan Cthulhu is a psycho top 3. How do they get this?
I was wondering if they were going to lock it. I would have snap locked it if I had the
me
option
too.
to. You're right. This has been banned all tournament, and for good reason. When you see one Cthulhu, that's spooky. When you see two Cthulhus, that's sort of we should leave type stuff. So at this point, we see Geb, Morgan, Cthulhu. That's some of the best picks that you could even imagine right now, but Cozyx Fanclub seems to value the fact that they got Coast on this Uller more than that because they knew these picks were going to be open. They had to know this was their plan.
You had to know, and they decided to go with the Uller, Odin, Sol. Sol has really risen in the ranks during this LAN, both in EU and NA. I think that we've seen it play really well, particularly in the mid lane. Basket and Benny Q doing it in North America, and now Gunter getting his opportunity here in Europe. And it is a god that I think could actually kill Cthulhu, and that's what we talk about so often with these Cthulhu comps is who's actually killing him. I feel like Sol's a god that actually can.
Right. If you're going to pick this Uller, you're probably not going to go that chin-size builds, as we've been mentioning before. The Mace tree is so powerful right now. It's usually full ability damage, so you're going to have some sort of auto attack damage needed to really chunk down this Cthulhu. Sol is going to do it. The Telekind's ring is very potent on her as well, so we can definitely see that getting some use here, as we are going to see that Fafnir being picked. Double ADC Fafnir is nothing to shy away from.
No, not. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this up against a draft that has Geb, Morgan, Cthulhu. But I think Cozyx Fanclub is actually like stoked about where they are in this draft. I mean, they give up 3 of the best gods in the game, and gods that synergize really well together at that. But their picks all work so well in tandem with one another. I mean, Odin Cage is going to be a problem for the Morgan. It's going to be a problem for Geb. It's going to be a problem for the Cthulhu. You've got gods that can actually threaten them. You've got a Fafnir to help you on objectives. I'm impressed with where Cozyx Fanclub have ended up. I liked their bans. It forces Adapting to go to Kamazots instead of something like that Dodgy that he's been so dominant on. And then Rapio gets this Thanatos that he was very good on and should have pentakilled them with. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think Cozyx Fanclub might have the better draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to put some attention to this Chernobog because there's a few options here. Because right away when you look at this, all I can think about is you are definitely losing pressure to Coast. Uller is going to dominate the Chernobog. There's really no option for a 1v1 in that regard. Your ult is a team fight ult. It's not really used for that. But you could, I guess you could. But point being, the Morgan also has a pretty sick transformation there. If you want to rotate 2 people, you can get 2 Chernobog ults. If the Cthulhu is a very solid transformation, but there's options there as well. So I think I have to agree with you, though. Cozyx might have gotten everything they wanted here.
Well, look, Coast gets his Uller, and as we all know, this is a signature pick for him, and we could actually go all the way back to Friday, November 10th, 2017, when a young Vaporish Coast did this to Mifflin. This was unbelievable. You might want to notice, by the way, that Mifflin is 1-8 at the beginning of this clip, and bottom of the player damage, Trelly. Not a great RDO jungle game for him. But look at Coast just absolutely dominate the old Obey Alliance squad.
I just got it. This man, he told us he was 12 years old at this point.
We confirmed he was 14, but still very young, yes.
Oh my goodness, yeah. He looks so small. Look at him in the bottom left, smacking his chest.
Dude,
the confidence.
He's going off. This is my favorite part, little backstep. Yeah.
Oh, he knew the tail whip was coming, too.
Yeah, he had it. Mifflin, when you're watching this back, how do you feel? Watch Coast's face, actually. I think we got to zoom in here on what Coast is doing. Yeah. Mifflin, give me the breakdown here from your perspective.
Well, sitting in the player's seat, I immediately made eye contact with Coast. He's popping off. I have to look away because he's asserting so much alpha dominance. So I look out towards the crowd, hoping that there's a friendly face, and instead it is a older version of Vaporish Coast, his father, sitting in the crowd. And he was popping off the exact same way. Like, this is a learned behavior from the young Penta kid. Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of history. Just wish it were me. Just wish it were me that did that.
Well, you were involved at the very least. You know, you got that going for you. Look, now Adapting just hoping that exact version of Coast isn't going to happen to him. So you've given him the blueprint at the very least to avoid that. Any chance we get a chance to remind Mifflin of that play. I'm always going to take it. We'll see if he can do it again here this time in the grand finals of the EU Circuit Playoffs. It's Elysium up against the Cozyx Fanclub. Let's throw it over to J-Mac and Mifflin.
Thank you so much, Aggro and Trelly. Game number 2, first one that gets played between these two teams at the very least, Elysium and Cozyx Fanclub. The number 1 and then the SOC number 1, aka number 4 seed coming into this tournament respectively for these two teams. It's J-Mac, Mifflin, and Doug bringing you the action in game number 2 of this set. Neither of these teams, it's not an elimination game. They've both qualified to go to the SMITE World Championship placement round, but you always got to dip your hand and maybe try and get a little bit more of that prize pool.
Prize pool, seeding, all important and all on the line here. I'm sure both of these teams want the easiest path possible to actually playing on that world stage. lot on the line here. I mean, the Devs did a great job highlighting that both of these compositions are incredibly strong. Elysium have a steadfast front line between double Cthulhu or even potentially double Geb. You've got good pick potential. Camazotz and the Morgan both bring a lot of that 1v1 in the jungle. Whereas on the other side, if this goes to a late game team fight, and it might not, as Bevy Monster in some trouble.
Tarim dashes in. The minions are poking out Tarim, but Tarim just needs one more good hit against Bevy, but the health potion is ticking him up, but not far enough. Breathes right on him and takes him out. First blood goes to the Elysium squad, but Elysium want to strike elsewhere. Vapor's Coast gets slammed against the wall, and the 2v2 in mid will stand to the stalemate.
What a way to start off this set. Elysium and Tarim finding a solo kill before the 1 minute mark. Bevy Monster now going to be playing at a deficit, and that is pretty huge. Bevy Monster was a key point of this Cozyx fan club composition. He brings an attack speed stim to help out your double hunter composition. He's going to be your primary initiator in the majority of these fights. You don't want your initiator a level down a minute and 30 in. This Odin, he's going to have to bide his time from here on out.
Not only do you not want your initiator down, you don't want a Cthulhu up ahead. Rapio wants to try and make amends to that in a rotation to the duo lane. Has his blink and nice axe against Spudio. Gets the beads out of the hunter and a thunder shot out there just for good measure up against him. But Spudio will be just fine. Rapio does not expend that blink to try and make anything happen in the duo lane. It's all just going to come from Coast and Calvin.
Spudio, no beads, though, might have to concern himself of another rotation from Rapio at any point. And worth noting, Rapio, although playing an early game god, it was earlier this weekend that he decided that the first 15 minutes are all about farm. So this Thanatos still has potential to do well in the late game, even if he doesn't decide to make his stamp known here, but doesn't seem to be the case. Rapio, proactive on the map, moving in towards red.
A red buff potential skirmish here. Angry will go stealth, but
Good
he misses
juke.
the stun up against Rapio. Now with Gunter rotating in, Angry will have to use the beads after the slow, but Rapio has blinked right past. Death Sight slams against the wall, a small little miss hit, but they're still going to go for that chase. A couple more basics needed. One more ability from Rapio if he can get it, but no, the stun from Angry keeps himself alive and deters any further aggression from them.
Great drukes from Angry just to make sure that he does survive, knowing that he can't take that fight much longer considering where's adapting at on the map, invading the speed buff. Rapio, you dedicated a lot of time trying to find the kill onto the mid laner. You are at least able to strip away this red buff, but at what cost? Speed and the small camps on the right-hand side.
Those are gone. Tarim has hit level 5. Bevy is struggling just to get to that level 4, and he really has a hard time even just walking up to this Cthulhu, because look at what he's able to do right back at him. Even Spuddy on this left side getting poked out again. No beads up for about another 60 seconds on this carry, and that's going to be all danger, especially if Rapio can hit 5 before those beads come up.
Curious if Terra may have had potential to solo out Bevy Monster yet again there. Uses the bird bomb on the wave to send the madness available, but why risk it? That's your really safety net in the soul lane. So this Cthulhu, happy with a solo kill earlier on, not going to go ahead and try and take the aggressive play there. Bevy Monster may be thankful for this second lease on life.
Trix and Spudio will just go ahead and clear out one of the Harpy camps, and it'll be the Scorpion in lane done by Vaporish Coast and Calvin. Tarim up 2 levels against Bevy Monster. Doesn't even have access to that cage. Tarim hasn't gone back to base yet to spend up that first blood bounty that he's earned, and he's been able to net for himself. But with that lead, the jungle having a little bit of a lead here, Elysium's right side of the map, looking fairly strong here in the early game mid, though. Angry just now taking over level 6, where Gunter got it earlier off that red buff rotation.
He has, and neither Gunter nor Tarim have head back to base yet, so some significant power spikes still available on the map. I'm keeping my eyes on Rapio, though. I know I said earlier that he doesn't necessarily need to get involved early on, but he's got some decent targets, especially considering we've got Spudio's beads getting burned on cooldown available right now, but we know if Vaporish Coast has his way, or if Calvin does, a couple hammers or axes could rectify that issue. Angry, no beads for the next 25 seconds. Hovering death could very well be a death sentence for the Morgan in the next couple of moments.
Rapio, no stranger to not getting involved early. I mean, even yesterday on this Thanatos did no player damage for the first 15 minutes of the game, got involved in 2 team fights, and ended with nearly 8,000 player damage and what, like 6 kills to his name after that? I mean, can't blame the guy if he wants to have to sit back for a little bit longer before he gets involved. We know he's capable of making some big plays, but already down just a little bit in experience. His solo laner, a little bit behind here in Bevy Monster, hasn't had an opportunity to finish off that first item yet. Tarim does have Breastplate of Valor now online.
Greater Scorpion on the right-hand side, Forpion, if you would, has been taken away. So now at least one neutral objective should be spawning up pretty shortly, and it is the one on the right-hand side. You better believe that is a active decision from Elysium to try and put the POI on the solo side of the map, considering Tarim has got a pretty significant lead at this point, as well as hitting some nice power spikes, has that ultimate available. Descent into Madness is a unstoppable tool at this point in the game. Sure, Cozyx Fanclub composition can deal with it a little bit later on with their auto attack basic composition from Gunter and Vaporish Coast, attack speed sims from both Calvin and Bevy Monster, but we're 5 minutes in, 6 rather, and those aren't really available as of yet. So if Tarim does make a rotation towards this Pyromancer, man's just going to be a menace.
Even with that first blood, Elysium not too far up in the gold department, only about 300 gold in experience in their favor, but adapting and rotating up towards these back camps as Tarim goes for a proxy farm behind the tower. Rapio gets caught out here. Bevy Monster drops the cage around Tarim, but Trix is here to provide some support. The stone shield is good. The cage has faded away, and it's a double cataclysm out of Trix Tech. Gunter on the run, has to use the beads to get away from the Descent to Madness Cthulhu. A triple leap in from the squad of Cozyx Fanclub, and Tarim will be the first one to go down. Rapio credited towards the kill. Bevy Monster still alive and healthy, and will chase away Trix Tank and Angry.
Rapio holds on to the death sight throughout that entire fight, realizing if he doesn't get the last hit, he's going to fall down. Nice target selection does shut down Tarim, and the concern that I had that Elysium might be able to barrel through the right-hand side of the map thanks to this lead Cthulhu, well, that goes unfounded. Cozyx Fanclub able to strip one away and bring this game right back to even. Gold and experience largely equalized.
Dumore finished up by Angry off of his last back, so he's got a large power spike immediately out the gate with the Sands of Time. He's got a little bit of cooldown reduction. We can see just in the net worth department, this Cthulhu is still sitting at the top of the charts for his team, but he's not anywhere by a long stretch of the farthest up in the game. Immediately right behind him, hot on his heels, is Gunter in that mid lane, who's been left to solo farm for a large majority of this early game.
Both mid laners have been left to their own devices for the first 7.5 minutes, and only one of them comes out with a lead. It's Angry, now sitting level 10. Gunter, just a couple of moments ago, had that exact same lead in his pocket, but Morrigan has been free farming on the map and farming aggressively, almost similar to how Shinto likes to play, in that he's taking back camps. If his jungler's not there for red buff, he's not waiting. That's his farm, making sure that everything goes down on cooldown. Elysium, they're doing a good job of trying to refine some equilibrium after a small misplay on the right-hand side.
Yeah, no stone unturned, no camp left standing when it comes to these mid laners. They want to get their farm. They want to get to those big power spike items. You see a Spear of the Magus from Gunter, a little bit of lifesteal, huge amount of just base magical power, and some flat pin in the early stage of the game. Can go a long way. But Angry gets spotted out by the ward that Calvin and Gunner have placed in the mid. It's a blink in. Cataclysm only hits Calvin, but that might just be enough. Supernova makes sure to zone them away, and in the sky is Rapio. But it doesn't look like he's interested in crashing down into this party. Instead, he'll go back towards the back camps, and both teams will just go ahead and disperse.
Yeah, Rapio heads up in the air just as a deterrent, making sure that Elysium don't stick around any longer in that engagement. Had there been more of a commitment, you better believe he would have been there. But Gunter does a great job peeling out for Calvin with that Supernova ultimate. I'm pretty sure Angry just picks up that kill with a couple of auto attacks and a Dark Omen if that knockup doesn't come through. So Cozyx Fanclub slowing down the pace of this one. Still maintaining, or nursing rather, a couple hundred gold in the lead 9 minutes in. But this is EU. We're not keeping our eyes on the first 10 minutes, and maybe not even the next 10. It's around that 20-minute mark where these team fights really start to ring true.
Calvin, quick rotation, but an even quicker blink by Tarim gets him away from this Fafnir rotation out of Calvin. And on this left-hand side, Vaporish Coast left all by his lonesome, and it's adapting and Spudio to put him down. The bats out of adapting have the damage necessary to bring down the Hunter and put a second kill on the board for Elysium.
Vaporish Coast does at least hang on to his bead, so doesn't have to play too concerned once he does rotate out. Does need to concern himself, though, with the 1-level lead that Spudio has accrued on the left-hand side of the map. Actually going for the Crusher immediately to Aussie build. He's swinging at this point. Spudio very happy to take some 1v1s.
Bevy Monster over here taking a 2v1 as he was proxy farming on that side of the map. Calvin again caught out here in the mid lane, but he'll be A-okay. Now with Rapio making his rotation to the right side of the map, we could be seeing a 2v2 fight over this blue buff. It's Trixtank caught out inside the own cage. There's a double Cataclysm to keep him alive, but now it's Angry here off of his ultimate. Bevy stunned out as soon as he lands, drops his own shield, but that shield does not have enough health to it. It's Adapting's rotation that puts down the solo laner for the second time and puts the second kill up for Adapting.
Rapio heads up into the air and immediately pulls the ripcord. From his aerial view, notices that 4 members of Elysium are closing in fast on this blue buff, so he leaves. He says, Bevy, I'm sorry, man. You're an Odin. You can't fly, so you're stuck here. Thanatos, though, a little bit luckier, is able to maintain his own life, and Rapio should actually come out very ahead from this, closing up that XP gap that Adapting had created, and instead maybe even pulling a lead as Angry is shut down in mid. Gunter making it all happen.
He just walked up, and Gunner and Calvin said, why are you even daring to walk up towards us? A quick stun and a supernova after puts the mid laner in the dirt, and Cozyx Fanclub continue to close up that gold lead, dead even in the gold department for both these squads, and that gives Calvin and Vaporish enough room on the left side of the map to invade the purple buff, sealing that one away from Elysium.
Now 11.5 minutes in, both neutral objectives available on the map, Gold Fury and Pyromancer. I do not consider Fire Giant something that can be taken at this point of the game, so instead it's only those 2 targets, and taking a peek at Cozyx Fanclub's draft, if they're given any amount of time on either, they will not last very long. Vaporish Coast, Gunter, both going to be the brunt of the DPS on these objectives, and only made it a little bit better by all those attack speed stems on their side. Good confirmation as well from Supernova or even Death Scythe. I wouldn't say that Elysium's got great steal potential. If it does come down to a coin toss, it's a weighted coin toss favoring Cozyx Fanclub.
Cozyx Fanclub with that kill on that side of the map will hold that as Bevy Monster again under fire on the right side for going for another greedy play, trying to invade these back camps, but there's not a ton of kill pressure for them because of 2 people trying to fight him on the right side of the map. Spudio up in the sky, gets some vision against everybody to see where the whole team is lurking. And Elysium steal away the Gold Fury off the play from Spudio. Calvin with nowhere to go gets rooted out and bursted as soon as he comes out of that transformation. Angry puts him in the dirt, and now it might be Rapio, the one in danger. Nowhere to go, no beads, no life. Terra puts him down to separate out of Gunter. May just be delaying the inevitable. It's a blink under by Angry and an immediate kill onto him. Another one for Adapting. 3 and the Fury go to Elysium.
Elysium do not care about your weighted coin, Cozyx Fanclub. They make their own fate, not only taking the neutral objective, but also 3 lives of the Chaos team. Rapio, Gunter, and Calvin fall down, and they're not done. Pyromancer's next.
Pyromancer started up here, and there's no answer back. We get a nice little perspective out of Spudio. Use the ultimate, stand out, and then as soon as he lands back down, just goes with the easy 1-2 combo to steal that Fury away, and then the fight after is just all she wrote. Elysium coming up big in the fight, and look at the gold swing they get from there. Over 2,500 gold that they're able to put up in the lead when they were down about 500 just a moment ago.
Maybe more important is that experience, now 2,600 in their favor. Fights that were already going Elysium's way will only continue to do so from here on out. Cozyx Fanclub, it's got to shift up the entire style of this early game. Instead, now it's stem the bleeding, slow down Elysium, try to find some farm on the map. If you can just not take engagements, that might be the best look for the Chaos team from here on out.
Calvin gets spotted, but the red buff will go to Elysium. Vaporish wanting to fight here up against Adapting, but do you want to square up against the Bat, who's already got 2.5 full items online with this Camazotz? The answer to that should be no, but Calvin is willing to at least stop him from going up against his teammates.
He is, and now it seems as if Cozyx Fanclub have done a good job of slowing down this game with no neutral objectives available to either team. Elysium going to have a hard time trying to force out some of these engagements. We could see maybe a mid-tower siege, maybe we see some rotations towards the solo lane. Both of those tier 1s already very low. Fortunately, maybe for Cozyx Fanclub, that the dual lane has already lost that tier 1 tower. I doubt we see Spudio decide to sit on the tier 2, but if he does do so, well, Rapio's hovering very nearby.
Bevy will just clear out the wave. Taram's got one final Totem of Coup. Then he can drop down for his team, and then that objective will be gone and off the map for the remainder of the game. So perfect time for him to grab it is right at the last possible moments. But Bevy is at least going to delay that for a little while, but a leap in place may have sealed the solo laner's doom. Gunter in the mid lane gets hit by the Saprite. Angry transforms. The Zap Ray goes through for Gunter, but it's a quick chase down with a bat out of hell from the mid laner. But Spudio's here to steal that kill away from his teammate. Tier 1 tower may be in danger, but Calvin and Rapio rotating in means they will not go down.
Elysium, every single time they see a single member from Cozyx Fanclub on their own, it doesn't matter if you're in a Tier 1 or if you're on the way to the Tier 2, they are going to chase you out. Elysium demanding that Cozyx Fanclub group up, forcing them to play as a team, and when you're this far behind, that's the opposite of what you want. These inefficient XP and gold splits only going to hurt Cozyx Fanclub. I think I understand the ideology of the Chaos team. Leave Gunter alone. He's one of our win conditions. Let him farm up, get all this solo farm. That's not an option right now, not with 3 people diving.
Coast beads burned away, and he'll have to go back towards his Tier 2 tower as his now remaining safe haven. Calvin makes a rotation over to try and alleviate some of that pressure on his Hunter. They still want to go for this fight here, or at least Vaporsh wants to go up to the wave to get that experience cleared as quickly as he can. They'll be able to get that and then go towards the Scorpion to get a little bit of extra help here, but Coast now down his Purification Beads. That relic on cooldown for about another 2 minutes.
Primal Fury going to be spawning in just about 1 minute, so if Elysium are able to, they should head over to the Gold Fury and try and force a fight as soon as it spawns so that Vaporsh Coast will be forced to take an engagement without that added layer of safety. Trixtank headed back to base, has ticked over to level 13, so second relic in the cards here as he levels up the Adventurer's Blade, and it is a phantom pickup. Has his eyes towards Bevy Monsta. Does not want to have to concern himself with these Ring of Spears a little bit later on.
On the opposite side of the board, though, it's Calvin fully maxing both of his relics. Now that he's hit 12, he's not only picked up a Frenzy, but he's maxed it alongside that Sundering Spears, making sure to get max value out of both of those relics. Adapting wants to fight Rapio, but Rapio doesn't want to be anywhere near this fight. He's going to use the ultimate and take himself out of the fight as quick as possible, but that leaves Vaporsh Coast all alone to have to leap over the wall to get away. This Elysium team, with this small little 3,000 gold lead they have, they're not playing like they're 3,000 up, they're playing like they're 30,000 up.
And now on the left-hand side, a significant grouping from Elysium. As the Primal Fury spawns up, Heavy Monster forced to rotate out early, finds Angry in mid, and puts a good deal of damage into him. Trixtank, though, nearby should be able to keep him safe. Seems like Elysium, they know what the plan is. Group up, head to the Primal.
Primal started up by Spudio and Adapting. It's the rest of the team zoning him out. Calvin, the first one here for Cozyx Fanclub. That'll be enough to at least slow down the burn on the Fury. Calvin gets pushed against the wall, and Bevy drops the cage, but it's a quick phantom response out to get everybody right back out. Descent into madness by Terra. Bevy Monster has nowhere left to go. The knock-up off the mark, but the bat out of hell from Adapting puts him down, and a Cataclysm finds 2 from Trixtank. Terra puts down Calvin, and now Koza is getting crit out by Spudio. A land in from the ult out of Rapio, but the Stone Shield keeps Spudio alive, and Angry puts him down with a stun right after. Elysium pick up 3.
Cozyx Fanclub forced to take yet another engagement that they want no part of. Vaporsh Coast, buddy, you're too low to be walking up this far, especially against a team that has stealth on it. Angry tries to land the Dark Omen over the wall, but is unsuccessful in doing so. But I don't think he's beating himself up too much. 3 for 0 trade, and the Primal Fury go to Elysium. 18.5 minutes in. Now these other neutral objectives going to be a little bit easier to clear. You take less damage, you deal more. Pyromancer and Fire Giant on the menu at this point. Rapio dead for 12 seconds. Elysium can set up the defensive positioning very easily.
Prior to that fight, it was a 3,000 gold lead and not all that much experience. Now we're looking at a 5,000 gold lead and a 6,000 experience that Elysium has net for themselves, and this makes it even more difficult for Cozyx Fanclub to even walk up towards these fights. A stun on Trixtank, but a quick Stone Shield at least holds them away. Sunder popped up against the tank, and you do see Trix eat quite a bit of damage, but he'll be just fine. He'll be able to go back, but maybe that's just enough of a window here for Cozyx Fanclub to take one of these smaller neutral objectives. The Pyromancer started up here by the Cozyx Fanclub, already down to half health. Vaporsh Coast with 3 full items online. He is chunking through it alongside Gunter.
And it's a Fire Giant pull as well. Cozyx Fanclub still have the Frenzy available. They're going for the Hail Mary.
It's going to be the transformation. The AoE curse will be up. Fire Giant already down to half. It's Tarum in the back line to try and stop this. Trixtank caught inside the cage, but it's immediately off the Fire Giant and already down. Vapor's Coast is gone. Gunner out of the Disapparate, but they're turning it right back around. Tarum is getting low, but adapting. Picks up Rapio, and now Gunner gets caught because the second Cthulhu has finally arisen. Angry with the transformation, grabs one, and Bevy and Calvin have nowhere left to go. Tarum picks up his next kill and adapting to close it out. It's a deicide off the Hail Mary from Cozyx.
Cozyx Fan Club, I understand completely. You've lost out on the last 3 team fight engagements. Neutral objectives largely going the way of Elysium. I think maybe that Hail Mary play works out a little bit better had they not started with the Pyromancer. A slight bit of trepidation cost them the largest neutral objective on the map. Fire Giant headed to the Order team. They realize how easy it is with 5 members of Cozyx Fan Club dead, so they split their attention throughout the entirety of the map. Right side tier 2, that's free. Mid, that's already pushed in. Fire Giant cleared out, and Elysium 15-2. 20 minutes into this one, primed to take game 2 in the series.
And another massive gold swing out of that fight. Another 5,000 gold up that Elysium are able to put for themselves off the misplay out of Cozyx Fan Club. Trying to go for that Hail Mary Fire Giant, doesn't work out, and now they're staring down the double-barreled shotgun that is Elysium. Nearly level 20 for most of the carries on this team. Spudio just behind. Tarum almost there, but he's nearly full build himself. And a Spear of the Mage is picked up by Tarum for just a little bit of that extra power. Rapio up in the sky, but maybe just a little scared that he might get surrounded by the members of Elysium.
Hey, that's the right call. Rapio has not been given an opportunity to use that ultimate aggressively a single time this game, but if he falls down there, that costs him a bird at least, maybe even more. So just going ahead and losing out on that cooldown to maintain your life is something I can agree with going forward, especially with the 20% CDR he already has built into this build, 40% rather. It is a complete CDR build for Rapio. But Elysium now gets to evaluate how strong their siege potential is. And between double Cthulhu, Geb engage, the damage output of adapting, I think that their siege is looking incredibly strong, but it's more so the dive that I'm concerned about.
No more towers left, and half of Gunter's health bar gone, but Angry's got to use his own beads to walk away from the skirmish. Calvin dives in against Spudio, Tarum, and Trix, and it's a quick rotation by Cozyx Fan Club over towards this left side Phoenix to try and defend against the 3 strong. You see Angry sitting around the jungle waiting for his opportunity to jump in. Plenty of optimal transformation targets they could go towards, but he'll team back up with adapting up against Rapio. It's a Blink Cataclysm on 2, but nobody is going to use any other relics on that side. Instead, it's adapting. He has to use the Bat out of Hell, and Angry will close out the Phoenix. That one already off the table. Now it's that fight towards the left side. Calvin transforms, but so does Tarum. Descent into madness and a dive in the back line by Spudio. 3 of them so low on the side of Cozyx Fan Club, and it's Rapio who pops first. Adapting puts down 2 and picks up the double kill. And Elysium poised to take game number 1, but they've got to go through the 3 left on Cozyx Fan Club if they want to close it out.
Spudio low HP, Tarum below half, maybe not an opportunity to go for the end right now unless Angry's got something to say about it. Vapor's Coast dropped low, and Elysium, they stay hovering here. 30 seconds to work with for the nearest respawn. Here's the re-engage.
Waiting for that opportunity, and Bevy may have just given it to him. He gets caught out and has to go all the way back to the fountain alongside Vapor's Coast, and that may have just been the small window necessary for them to close out this game. Titan down to half health. Bevy Monta dives in the back line, but the damage output from Elysium is just too great. And they go ahead and break their game 1 curse they've had all weekend, and they take their first official match played here.
Elysium very dominant in game 1, but it's off the back of a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes. We were talking about how good the objective confirm and burn is from the Cozyx Fan Club, and they were in this game completely net neutral until they approached their first Gold Fury. They lose the objective, they lose 3 lives, and they lost all their momentum from there.
Yeah, once that Fire Giant started up and it goes down, that pretty much sealed the game for Cozyx Fan Club. Elysium take game number 2 of the set. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back right after.
Peace through tyranny. Pathetic fools! There's no escape! Transformers! More than the eye. I will not break their battles to try. Let's roll out.
Well, we thought that game 1 might be a little bit awkward for Elysium, but then they remembered it was game 2, and therefore they're allowed to win the game. And boy, did they win that game. Elysium just absolutely dominated Cozyx Fanclub here in game number 2 of our best of 5 set. But before we get into breaking that down a little bit more, got to remind you guys that we are doing this Alienware 25-inch gaming monitor giveaway. All you have to do is head on over to the SMITE Pro Twitter and check out the pinned tweet there for more information on how to enter and snag yourself this sick piece of Alienware gear. Again, SMITE Pro Twitter, check the pinned tweet in order to get that information. Aggro alongside Trelly Relly here. And Trelly, I mean, we thought that the objective gameplay here for Cozyx Fanclub might be good enough, that they would be able to play around this duo lane, and I think that was clearly the plan, but the right side of the map got so far ahead early for Elysium that the left side never got a chance to materialize.
Yeah, this Cthulhu pick for Terrorum was obviously pretty solid, and finding a solo kill before even level 2 is going to put a detriment in your plans. No doubt Terrorum was playing pretty unstoppably here. Even at this point, you have, I guess it was just the leveling order that Bevy Monster chose. He didn't really have exactly what he needed to get out here, but it just rolled him off to a bad start. Even besides that, though, the Cozyx Fanclub was able to really come back from that, and then it was that first Gold Fury where we really saw the big throws, where Spudio had that clutch steal.
That steal from Spudio was absolutely massive. And then speaking of massive, how about Terrorum in this team fight? Stopped them on the Fire Giant, created space, still ends up living. He and Adapting were able to really put in the damage this game at 11 KDA for Adapting, which is always a winning recipe. And oh yeah, Trick Stank on Geb. Maybe we don't give that away? Maybe?
I think there's a few things on this draft that we probably shouldn't give away. I think, again, Cozyx Fanclub really valued that Uller pick. They were willing to give away a lot for it, and it just did not end up paying off here. Maybe you could make the argument that Gold Fury was just too much of a snowball, but I don't think there was much really to touch on that Cozyx Fanclub did well after the fact.
I mean, 8-0-6 for Adapting. They ban away 2 of his premier gods in the second phase, and then he does this to you on Camazotz, which is never a great feeling. 5-1-10 for Terrorum, and Spudio 1-0-8, though, of course, not showing up on the scoreboard. That clutch Gold Fury steal that really changed and made sure that Cozyx wasn't going to be able to get back into this game. I think the biggest concern here, though, Trelly, is Bevy Monster on this Odin 0-4, took that solo death early. Rapio only 3,000 player damage on the Thanatos, never really got involved. This right side of the map for the Cozyx Fanclub really struggled in this game. And when you want to try and be playing around your duo lane, the right side needs to be able to stay afloat, and that just didn't happen in game.
Exactly. When Bevy goes down early, Rapio really can't look for any farm over there. The whole side of the map is pretty much owned by Adapting at that point. When you're against Elysium, the solo lane has to at least be even. If you're going to be down by there, again, Rapio can't really do anything on the Thanatos pick, especially. It's one of those gods where you really need other people to be able to dive with you. You have to get those low thresholds. You have to get their HP down, and they just really couldn't get anything going. The Thanatos pick is never going to work if you can't get that ball rolling.
Let's see what adjustments Cozyx Fanclub is going to make as we are ready for game number 2, picks and bans. I mean, this team got the duo lane they wanted. Gunter had a pretty solid game on the Soul, got the kill onto Angry in the mid lane with some help from Calvin, but the rest of the map just could not keep up, and we think we saw that pretty clearly. Cozyx Fanclub in the first pick position now. So theoretically, if they were to go the same direction in picks and bans, and by starting with the Aphrodite, that signals they could be the ones with the Geb this time around.
That's true. If they value it, I think if they do still put that same stock into this Uller pick, it's going to be difficult because they're definitely going to give Elysium 2 things now instead of the 1 that they could pick here. And again, that Geb is going to be a high point of contention. We do not want tricks on that. If you've seen how much he's done, even if they were down, they couldn't find anything. These shields were just too crucial.
Exactly. Those shields really good. And then Trickstank's damage also very high in that game for what it's worth. 9,000 player damage on the Geb, as it's an Izanami ban once again, similar to what Cozyx Fanclub did in the last game, and similar to what they did in the last game. Elysium take away Gunter on the Tiamat. So now is where the adjustments could be made. Do Cozyx Fanclub go back to what I believe was a Loki ban in this spot? And they do not. It's the Morrigan instead. But now Elysium has to make a choice. Do they want to give up the Geb for an Uller Odin trade, just like Cozyx Fanclub just did, or did they learn the lesson for Cozyx Fanclub?
There's also that Cthulhu that could be first pick if they
true.
so choose. There's a lot of options here. This is one of the benefits of that first pick position, and they are going to ban the Geb away. They decide that giving them Geb would be too much. I think I can agree with that. And Cozyx goes for the Odin?
That is the last pick I thought they would go for. The last pick. Because there's no world in which Elysium goes Cthulhu Odin.
right? You're definitely right, and we already know they value that Cthulhu, so they're gonna. I'm assuming if they don't pick it right here, taking the Uller away from Coast already, and there's the Cthulhu. If you're Elysium, you got everything you want.
Got everything you wanted. And Bevy Monster gets back the Odin, which you hope will do a little bit better, but it's in the exact same lane matchup that he did not do very well in last time around. I am floored by the way that these picks and bans have developed in game number 2. I think, Cozyx Fanclub just take Elysium would have first picked the Cthulhu, right? 100%.
Yep.
100% they would have done that, I think, in my mind. So all you do is give up Uller by going first pick and give them the opportunity to get the final pick of the draft, which is usually very, very valuable. Maybe a bit of a mistake here for Cozyx Fanclub, but their adjustments are still there to be made. They go with the Nike this time around. This was banned from them in the second phase last game, something to get the ball rolling a little bit more easily for Rapio.
I can see that being a little bit effective here, especially if you're trying to trade with adapting. Obviously, he's okay with last picking his god at this point. He took a lot of bans last game. Didn't really matter.
Nope.
We've mentioned this many times. Adapting's god pool is extremely deep, and now you got tricks on Bacchus instead of Geb. I'm not sure if that's much better.
No, you're probably not feeling that much better about it because this is the type of god that Trickstank typically does very well on. We head into the second ban phase. I mean, I assume Cozyx Fanclub are going to be taking out some of these junglers from adapting, but Dodgy still on the table, Hunbat still on the table, the Kamazats that he just slammed you with, Loki still available. They elect to go Loki first and foremost, but adapting's going to have his pick still of this assassin tab, and you feel like he's always going to be able to find something very effective.
Oh yeah, the Dodgy is one of his favorites, and he played it into this exact roster, into this Nike pick as well, and did phenomenally. I mean, if you're Cozyx Fanclub, the Dodgy has to be at least in the back of your mind. It is going to be taken away there because,
Smart.
Again, they've lost to it already. But here's the thing: you just lost to that Kamazats. What answers do you have for that at this point?
Not a whole lot. Kamazat's one of those gods that it's kind of hard to shut down anyways. You kind of have to hope that he doesn't just hit everything, and adapting hit basically everything last time around. And as expected, he will get the final pick. This is what this Elysium team likes to do, let adapting see the whole draft, and then pick one of his gods. That is Merlin for Angry in the mid lane, a god that he has done very well with historically.
We're seeing a Horus Hover, a pick that we have definitely not seen this tournament, and I have not really seen the value. But I guess it is going to be a lot of CC. Maybe it's to get out. You can always use that as an escape from the Cthulhu ult. I guess if that's your option, you come back after when the Descent to Madness is done. I guess if that's the value they see, they're still hovering and thinking about it. I think they should definitely think about it. If they have a plan for this, it looks like they do. Maybe it does bring a lot of duo pressure. Horus has a lot of early CC. Both of his 1 and 2 ability are going to bring a lot of just lockdown in that lane. It's good against the Bacchus. You can stop the Belch there as well. And adapting is going to last pick that Fenrir.
Yeah, Fenrir seems pretty good here to me, Trelly. I mean, Odin, no CC immunity. Horus does have CC immunity, but locks himself in place to use it. Hachiman and Soul are brutalized food. They just don't have options to get away from you in that regard. The Fenrir pick here for adapting looking pretty strong. But on the other side, I mean, a kill lane in Hachiman Horus. Do you feel like this duo lane for Cozyx Fanclub needs to get kills in the early game for them to have a chance?
I mean, I do think they need to get kills. I do. But against Uller Bacchus, how do they even find that? I mean, there's going to be so much CC, so much burst, as we've mentioned. The Horus is going to bring a lot of lockdown for the Bacchus pick, but Trix is going to find a way to find those flops regardless. And I think that last game where we talked about Cozyx got everything they wanted, I think Elysium got everything they wanted in spades.
Yeah, I mean, Merlin, Fenrir, 2 picks that Angry and Adapting have played a lot of in their careers. The Cthulhu once again for Terror, and we shall see what happens now as we are down to a do-or-die situation for the Cozyx Fanclub. We'll see if they can get the reverse sweep started here in game number 3.
It's going to be a big shot for them to try and get this here. Elysium up 2-0 in our best of 5 series. Cozyx Fanclub need this one, or they're going to get sent with a second place seeding in this tournament and get the lower half of that prize pool. But there's one team that can do it. It's a team that is taking games, at least off of the top seed. The number 4 coming in this tournament, the number 1 at the SOC, and a pickup team at that has been looking impressive here this weekend. But Elysium seems they've got the gas going.
A lot of the tools that Cozyx Fanclub bring into game 2 are the exact same. Double auto attacker composition. You still got the Odin to boost your attack speed, as well as Ring of Spears just being a disruption tool in the late game. One of the major differences, I think, has got to be Rapio on this Nike jungle. It's pretty decent in the early game. You're able to engage relatively easily. You've got a good deal of survivability, and Rapio is a player that has shown a propensity to like to play a little bit more passive in the early. But Sentinel Zeus might be just what he needs to empower him to play a little bit more aggressively.
Trixtank with the aggressive flop in, immediately gets the belch against Calvin, puts them down a little bit critical. They'll have to go under the tier 2 tower just for some safety. That match potential aggression that the Horus Hachiman puts out here, well, that Uller and Bacchus can do it right back to him. Spudio already chunked away. Trixtank with a double belch and a double belly flop will hold them off of a Porsche. Ko still wants some extra fights, dashes in with that EI Jutsu, but immediately recognizes he might have to walk away.
These aggressive trades from Elysium in the dual lane are a byproduct of that relic selection from Trixtank. They realize, Spudio and Trix, that they can trade out their HP because Meditation is just going to top you right back off. So it's Calvin and Vaporge Coast now on the worst end of that engagement. At least maintaining the blink is Calvin, and Bede's still up for Vaporage. So there is a heavy kill potential now that the majority of sustain is lost to Elysium.
Trixtank and Spudio will take the safe path back into the lane, especially Spudio. He'll walk all the way around, but Calvin wants some aggression, but misses the dash and may have sealed his own doom. The belly flop, the hail of arrows, and the leap in from Spudio and puts him down with the axe. First blood goes to Elysium, and Vaporage could be the next one up on the menu, but he'll wisely walk away.
Unfortunate. Calvin tries to get aggressive, misses out on that fracture, and loses his life for his efforts. That's 2 games in a row now where Cozyx Fanclub lose an early first blood in the laning phase. Last time around, it was Bevimonts on the Odin and solo. This time, it's the Horus, and another aggressive pick that you do not want falling behind early on. Now this Horus has to play a little bit more passively in the lane, but despite all that, he still is level 3. Trixtank just now ticking over, so maybe the farm not too far behind for the order side support.
Rapio trying to make some waves on the right side of the map, but Tarim, now that he is level 3, level 4, has that dash available to him so he can quickly get out of a sticky situation. Spudio chunked down half health. Calvin again wants the aggressive play, but he gets bull trued immediately by the axe toss out of Spudio. No dash up for Calvin, except for that third ability, the heal comes out. So he has some way of getting back to safety, help out his teammate, and most importantly, help out his own life.
Elysium, though, all they have to do is just bide their time and wait for this first back. Spudio going to have that Jotun's Wrath online very quickly as a skirmish erupts to the right-hand side. Adapting takes a good deal of damage, but that should spell the end of it.
A leap in by Rapio and a leap over the wall by Adapting. Gets the Fenrir out. Gunter being burned down by Angry on the Merlin. He'll be sitting around a quarter HP, but he'll be able to just fine on this soul. Instead, it'll just be Rapio continuing to put some pressure in mid to alleviate some of the pressure that Gunter had put on him.
Looking at Rapio's relic selection, it's an early beads as Vaporish Coast drops down to about 75% HP just from the Wombo combo of Trixtank and Spudio. Rapio on this Nike jungle would have very much have liked to have been able to pick up a blink, but that threat of Ragnarok from Adapting is just enough to force the defensive relic purchase, meaning that Rapio, well, he doesn't really have that ability to just walk in a lane and engage.
Trixtank does not care how much or how little mana Spudio has. He is just willing to slam his body, slam his life out there just to put any amount of pressure back against Vaporish Coast. Level 5 now on the Bacchus has access to that Intoxicate. Now he may not have solo kill potential all on his own here, but if they stick around and Spudio makes his rotation back in the lane, that could be an easy kill for this duo.
Especially considering he just hits a massive power spike. The Jotun's Wrath available now. Blink in from Calvin just off the mark with the fracture. Trixtank able to avoid it with the belly flop this time around. So Calvin losing out on a bit of that kill pressure. Blink going to be down for just over 2 minutes, and Spudio, well, he's benefiting from it. Walks back in the lane, still gets to maintain his beads, has Jotun's Wrath, has the 1v1 potential over Vaporish, and realizes that Calvin's going to have to work a little bit harder if he wants to engage.
Spudio very wisely sitting so far back as he knows that Calvin is still there because of that ward that he had dropped down. Knew that Calvin was still sitting inside the jungle, hadn't walked back in the lane just yet. So instead, he'll get to watch as the wave falls down, gets to come right up to him, so he gets a nice and easy clear to himself. He'll have some extra help now that Trixtank has come back to the lane. They'll go purple buff for purple on that left side of the map. And in the mid lane, it's Adapting, grabbing those right side mid Harpies, Angry hugging the wall. That way he can get the extra credit for the experience and gold to split that out. Back in the duo lane, Trixtank in the jungle, hunting for Vaporish Coast on his own, but the belch is off the mark. Calvin gets it off against Spudio. The axe toss hits a minion, so Calvin may have just been spared because of that one minion.
I was surprised originally to see the purple buff trade from Elysium. I thought they had great pressure there. They have the power spike. They realized Vapor's Coast had not head back to base yet, neither had Calvin, barring that first blood. So Elysium, if Spudio moves forward just a little bit to slow down that purple, Trix was not far behind. Could have been an opportunity to try and utilize that lead early on. A little bit of a freeze in the lane from Elysium here, but realizing that Vapor's Coast is actually headed back to base, decide to push that wave into the tower, trying to strip away as much farm as possible from Cozyx Fanclub's ADC.
Calvin is still sticking around that left side just because Trixtank has not left the lane except to go back to base himself. Gauntlet of Thebes picked up by both supports, but Trixtank already has a very slight lead in that department. 21 stacks up, but adapting, hunting for Bevy Monster. The leap is down, and that's an easy call for adapting to go in by himself. But under that tier 1 tower, not willing to commit to going up against this Odin, and with the bead still up, that'd be an easy burn if he goes to the Ragnarok, but now it's Spudio in danger on the left side. He'll leap away. Rapio, an aggressive dive under the tower, the barrier, not going to push him back with the ultimate and the damage in. Calvin wants to commit under the tower. Spudio with no mana and very little health. He's going to be able to walk away. Calvin goes down to the final shot of the tower.
Wow.
Trixtank and Angry rotate over to help out and take down Vapor's Coast. But with Gunter here, the slow off the Stellar Burst, and it doesn't even matter because adapting over the wall helps to take him out with Trixtank. Quick beads out of Gunter off the Ragnarok, but he gets pulled back in by Angry in that arcane stance, and he's just delaying the inevitable. Adapting's the one who takes his life.
Young Kennett had never had an easier rotation in his life. Cozyx Fanclub overzealous in their aggression, walking into tier 2 tower. Calvin, your damage output was not enough. Spudio, credit for that kill, and then easy rotations from everybody else to find themselves a couple across the board. 5-0 for Elysium 7 minutes in.
Spudio comes up big in that fight. He keeps his life. Sure, loses the beads, but whatever. Look at the benefits that Elysium is able to reap from there. 2,000 gold up and levels across the board. We get a nice little perspective of Angry rotating to help take down this fight. Between him and Trixtank, they're able to absolutely shred through the health bar of Rapio, and then from there, it's all easy pickings, especially with the help on the rotation from Kennett.
Man, that was a fast rotation from Angry as well. He was there the moment that Rapio was leaping out of the tower, the moment that he was needed, already ready on the counter there. Cozyx Fanclub now have to, yet again, similar to Game 1, play on the back foot. 2,000 nearly gold down. It's all about slowing down the pace of this one. But they still do have that same level of objective burn capacity as they did in Game 1. So, Vapor's Coast, Gunter, given any opportunity around these Greater Scorpions, might be able to take those away, or the Gold Fury if the Scorpion is cleared out by Elysium. It's an engage from Trixtank on to Calvin. He's in some trouble.
Calvin able to dash away with the help of that Protector Surge, but it's Rapio again wanting to fight on this left-hand side. Dives it up against Adapting, but Adapting's got the Ragnarok to get the beats. Sentinel Zeus, and there's nowhere for Adapting to go. The damage from Calvin is enough, and a fracture in seals the deal for Spudio. Rapio picks up the credit for the kill, and they finally are able to get their team on the board. 2-5 now for Cozyx Fanclub.
Great turnaround. Rapio, good, phenomenal decision-making to leap in aggressively there. I thought he was dead to rights on his own, but still maintaining the beads after that entire engagement on the left side tier 2 tower. Means that Adapting gets baited forward, uses the Ragnarok aggressively, and loses his life for it. Calvin able to get that fracture back up. Chain C2 strong, and Vapor's Coast able to deal a ton of damage with that ultimate. Cozyx Fanclub may be down, but not for long and not that far. Only about 100 gold separating these two squads.
Bevy Monster clearing out his solo side, where all the action last time was to keep Bevy Monster down in the solo lane. Now, all that action is sprung around the dual lane, trying to keep Spudio and Trixtank as low as they can, but they've still got a 1-level lead up over Calvin and Vaporish. Angry has maintained about a half level over Gunter for the majority of the last 5 or so minutes of the game, with a Chronos Pendant online for this Merlin. That 20% CDR benefited by that item means that he's going to be able to spam out abilities as often as he wants to.
He will be able to, but it's not just experienced leads for Elysium. Cozyx Fanclub have found a couple themselves. Rapio about a half level up on Adapting, who's been sitting comfortably at 10. Adapting just now ticking over. Calvin as well has been able to close up that gap with Trixtank. This game, 10 minutes in, as close to as dead even as possible, which is wild considering the pacing that we've seen so far. Elysium, you'd have expected to have built themselves up a massive lead, considering that 3 or 4 for 0 trade just a little bit earlier. maybe a neutral objective could be an avenue forward for the Chaos team, but Calvin just peeking his head on the right-hand side dissuades adapting from pulling out the Pyro.
Well, the Forp was dropped earlier by Elysium, just adapting alone was able to grab it, and now they steal away one on their side. Calvin gets a fracture against Angry, but it's immediately traded in kind by Trixtank. Some damage from the belch, the belly flop just off the mark. And these supports, they are out for blood, man. Every opportunity Calvin has had, he has been going for these fractures. Hit or miss, he's going for the commitment to try and get his team going.
Both supports going for early thieves and then immediately transitioning themselves into damage items. Shillelagh now for Calvin, and Trixtank going down the penetration tree. Could be a Spear of Deso, could be a Divine Ruin, or it could be a Gold Fury for Elysium.
It could be a kill for Cozyx Fanclub. Spudio has to use the beads to walk back away, but now that there's 4 members of Elysium on this left-hand side, Vaporish Coast doesn't have many other places to go. Calvin used the ultimate to get himself out, and just in time, he'll be able to get out. Elysium with that strong rotation over. They start up the Gold Fury and then realize that Spudio might need a little bit of help. But once they're able to push the dual lane out, they can go right back to the Gold Fury. But look at Gunter peeking his head across the wall. That alone is enough to shake Elysium in their boots and make them walk away from the objective.
Elysium learned their lesson, the one they taught Cozyx Fanclub in Game 1. No need to go for these risky, neutral objectives when there's steal potential on the other side, and Gunter has certainly got that in spades. Trixtank hiding around the edge here. Might have been spotted out by Calvin, but he's got his eyes on Vaporish.
Vaporish dashes away, but Calvin's one to get stunned by the belch. Belly flop after is good, but Trixtank now down to half health. Calvin and Vaporish will be able to walk away. Calvin, again, playing very aggressive up on this horse, and that's exactly what you want out of really both of these supports. Bacchus and Horus, they're all about that initiation. And time after time, we are seeing these supports try and start fights. Whether they're winning or losing those fights, it has been a start up here by these two players individually throughout the entirety of this game.
It feels like this game is teetering on the knife's edge. Just somebody waiting to open up the doors, waiting to pull themselves in the lead. It is dead even still. 13 minutes in so far, but we haven't seen these solo laners rotate out as of yet. It hasn't been a true 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 engagement around these neutral objectives. One of them going to have to break those floodgates shortly, and it's Cozyx Fanclub grouped up aggressively in the jungle now, looking for an opportunity. Calvin spots out a Greater Scorpion, trying to find the steal with the updraft, but thinks better of it once he sees how aggressive Trixtank is starting to position and starts to fade himself away. When a game is paced out like this, J-Mac, we have to evaluate which one has the superior late game, and that's an easier task, easier said than done, rather. I think that Elysium might still have favor, considering Cthulhu plus Uller. Kind of hard to argue against those two picks, but Cozyx Fanclub's composition is so cohesive.
Ooh, Trixtank takes a little bit of shred there from Gunter's Supernova, caught him in multiple ticks. Raptio trying to push Angry away, hits him with the barrier. Angry wisely uses that flicker to get away, and Adapting, who's now under pressure at his own back camps, has to leap over the wall. So Cozyx Fanclub, even being down in some of the previous fights, they're starting to take some more, have netted themselves very, very minorly here, up a gold lead. Maybe with this Pyromancer, it's enough to help them out, but Tarum, Descent into Madness, will pull them off the objective. It'll be a quick reset by Cozyx Fanclub, and now the rest of Elysium are coming back to the fight. Trixtank after his back, now at nice and full health, and Adapting at full health even despite the rotation previously. But look at these supports. It was the Divine Ruin by Trixtank going for his power, but instead of the traditional Blackthorn Hammer that we've been seeing, an item that at one point on its initial release was the hottest thing on the market for just about any physical user to buy in the Sledge, but now we don't see that item as often here.
No, it still has good stats on it. The passive going to give you a good deal of protection as well, but it has been a little bit outshined in the past. Maybe, Calvin, kind of leaning on the HP stat stick. Sledge still certainly good, but I agree that Blackthorn is the new flavor of the month. Calvin maybe going to look towards that a little bit later on, but if he does so, we'll be sacrificing a good deal of protections in the build. I like that micro play from Tarum to blink in immediately onto the Pyromancer. Trades out not only his relic, but his ultimate for time. He wants to make sure the Cozyx Fanclub aren't able to drop that objective low, so instead engages when it's out about 50% HP and creates the space for Elysium to rotate back in. Cozyx Fan Club don't stick out the engagement. I think had they hovered for a moment, they would have had a significant advantage considering how many resources Terram had already used. But instead, it is a reset back to neutral. But it feels like Cozyx Fan Club just playing with a little bit more momentum right now. 1 level lead for Rapio in the jungle, and it's all the aggressive positioning from the Order side.
Starting up the Gold Fury, Bevy Monster here at the fight. It's going to be a few seconds before Terram can get in. He's in the mid lane. Bevy stunned out. Gold Fury started, but Gold Fury leashed with enough members of Elysium walking forward. Now, with Terram here, it'll be a full 5-on-5 around this objective if these teams wish to go for it. But it doesn't seem that they want to go onto this objective with everybody around. Not quite secured on their own secure for Cozyx Fan Club. But Rapio still wants some action here, adapting in him, standing by in this duo lane.
Whichever team decides to pull the Gold Fury in a fight like this is going to be playing in a disadvantage. When the game is as dead even as it is, the objective effectively acts as an unofficial 6-man for whichever side isn't fighting it directly. So, as of now, Cozyx Fan Club have vision advantage on the Gold Fury pit, but Elysium have positioning advantage on the left-hand side. Porsche Coast may be privy to this 3-stack of Elysium. Plays a little bit further back, but that's not going to deter adapting. He's still hunting.
Leaps in, gets the brutalized, and immediately cancels it right after. Bevy Monster gets caught out. Used the Ring of Spears and a supernova from Gunter to zone them away, but adapting has not given up the fight. He'll have to use the Ragnarok to get away now that 2 are chasing him down. A 5-man group up for their Harpy, and now a 5-man group up around the Gold Fury. The ward is cleared out, and the Gold Fury pulled. Elysium, by being able to send Bevy Monster back and burning away his ultimate, may just be the call that they need. But again, with enough members of Cozyx Fan Club here, Elysium don't want to risk going for the objective.
Elysium actually had Trixtank utilize that meditation to resustain after that small skirmish, but still weren't confident enough to pull the objective. Blink in from Calvin, using Fracture onto Spudio, does force out the beads from this Uhl, but Egg is still available, so Spudio not completely high and dry at this point. This game has stagnated in the kill department. 7 still 17 minutes in, but the gold has been trading hands. It's only largest deficit, about 100 either way. You can see it in the charts. Experience dead even as well. Neither one of these teams able to find a foothold to push them further, to propel them into a lead. But it just feels like one pick is all it's going to take to open up this match.
Quick belly flop away by Trixtank to get him out of the damage that could have come from Bevy and Calvin. He's able to get by from that Fracture. And instead, now it's the junglers in the solo lane just clearing up some farm. Rapio is winning this trade out, gets the Ragnarok out of adapting. A little scared of the dive potential from this Nike. So that'll be an ultimate down from adapting. His beads still down for another 75 seconds. That's going to be a relic and an ultimate advantage that Cozyx Fan Club have in the jungle.
If Rapio connects that leap and adapting had not used his ultimate, likely would have cost him his life. So I understand the safe play, but an unfortunate loss for Elysium's jungler, losing out on one of their best CC tools so far. And we have not seen too many impactful Ragnaroks as of now. The beads on the side of Cozyx Fan Club have largely been safe from Elysium. Nobody quite able to burn them consistently in these engagements. Trixtank might be able to do it with the burp stun, but that's not really all that consistent considering how many tools Cozyx Fan Club has to stop it. Feels like Calvin's always just hovering nearby with that Fracture, making sure that Trixtank can't be that menace that he wants to be.
I'll be again a 2v2 in the dual lane just to clear out the wave, and now it'll be Bevy Monster against adapting, who's just getting some own free farm on this right side of the map. Terram still level 16. He's been getting farm elsewhere across the board. He's been sitting around this mid lane for quite some time, just allowing adapting to get back in this game and get that farm that he needs. It is a Berserker Shield that he picked up for his 3rd item after a double mace. And Terram now with a Bulwark of Hope and a Cloak tier 1 to give him a little bit of extra defense.
Yeah, I like this pickup from adapting. Normally Berserker Shield is something that has fallen by the wayside, but a little bit of Bruiser item stack here going to make him able to stick around in these engagements a little bit longer. You've already got the Seething Howl to boost your power and lifesteal output. As an aggressive grouping from Cozyx Fan Club on the left-hand side, trying to surround Spudio inside of his tower, but another equally good rotation from Elysium, adapting, and Trixtank just make sure that really Cozyx Fan Club have no way forward into that tier 1, which results in yet another net wash on the map. Both these teams are constantly jockeying for positioning around these neutral objectives. This could be it. Gunter in some trouble to separate is able to walk himself out of there. But Gold Fury started, Elysium burning it quick.
Okay, Forge Coast is here to try and go for the steal, but he's not going to do so. Elysium steal away their own Fury. They're able to walk out, but adapting low. Rapio with the Sentinel of Zeus only finds Spudio, has to use the Aegis, and Spudio turns around to throw out some damage. Rapio can tank up only a couple of shots of that tower before it starts crushing through the shield. So Elysium get the objective, and they get out.
Rapio holds on to the Rend, waiting for Spudio to use his axe, and Spudio realizing that the axe is the only thing keeping him alive, does well to hold on to it. So Elysium able to work their way out after the neutral objective, but that's all they're able to secure for themselves. And on the other side, Cozyx Fanclub should be able to take this Pyromancer and bring this game right back to even. Elysium, though, steal!
Can walk up and just grab it all by his lonesome. Gunner in the Disapparate, and his primary safety is now at the board. He's only got the relics to his name, and he's going to have to use them fast. Aegis is good, but delays the inevitable. Terum and Adapting pick up the first 2 kills of the fight now. Calvin stuck in the middle of 4, has to leap over the wall towards the mid lane to get out, and with just that small little play, the steal of the Pyromancer, Elysium are going for the fire.
Second verse, same as the first. Cozyx Fanclub fumble on a neutral objective and now have the entire game teetering on the edge. It's Bevimonster in first.
Goes in, gets the cage, locks Spudio in place, and Spudio will have to leap over the wall. Fire Giant is leashed, but Calvin is the one they've turned their sights towards. Adapting grabs him with the help of his mid laner. Bevimonster leaps away. The Fire Giant with a full reset here. Bevy at least buys some time for Cozyx Fanclub to delay them. Now with Vapor's Coast here, steal potential is still up. But Trix Tank is too low to be able to remain here tanking this one. Fire Giant down to half, and it's Adapting holding on to it, but Adapting himself is starting to fall low. Fire Giant getting dangerously low. They're able to grab it, and with Bevimonster leaping in, that may seal his doom. But Vapor's Coast at least can pick up Adapting for their trouble. Terum all by his lonesome. It's a double kill for Coast.
Vaporish Coast ties up his cape and says, Elysium, you have to continue playing perfectly. You must continue to do what you can, because he's going to strip away Fire Giant from 2 of your members, but 3 core hold on to it. Angry, Trix Tank, and Spudio, and those are some great targets to maintain the fire buff. Trix Tank to tank up those objectives, and Spudio to remove them. I think that Elysium, after this 30-second respawn from Terum, are in a great position still to start stripping away some of these towers. Every single one still available to Cozyx Fanclub, and every single one a gold cache on the map for Elysium to take away. But phenomenal play for Vaporish Coast to just teeter the edge one little bit, one step back in their favor.
Really forcing Elysium to have to play that objective perfectly. If they take any longer, Adapting dies to the Fire Giant or Trix Tank dies to the Fire Giant, they recognize they need that all-in commit and go straight to it. But with 3 of them, the only ones now to have it, and a respawn now for the members of Elysium. The question is, where will their first tower choice be? They got the pick of the litter. Every single tower, as you highlight, is still up for Cozyx Fanclub to defend. Question is, though, Mifflin, do you think they put up a soft defense or maybe just a hard defense at some of these tier 2s?
Tier 2s, you can definitely put up some form of defense, at least a heat check Elysium, and make sure that they are expending some resources before they approach your Phoenixes. Tier 1s, though, a foregone conclusion. Don't walk into them. They're not worth anything. The gold that the Elysium are going to get from these are not too significant. It is curious to see Elysium grouping up on the right-hand side. This play tells me that they're looking for a gambit of towers. They're not concerning themselves with the birds just yet.
Be 4 on the right side for Elysium, 4 for Cozyx Fanclub. They left the junglers over towards the left-hand side, but Elysium don't want a full commit under the tower. They've sent Trix Tank to go and deal with Rapio while they let the rest of the team handle what's on this right side of the map. But again, they're not really full committed to going for this dive just yet. They're splitting themselves up, waiting for these minion waves. It's only a few key members with the Fire Giant. They do have Spudio, which can start burning down these objectives very quickly, these towers. And now with Adapting, rotating over, and an initiation from Trix Tank and Terum. The cage drops down, but that does not help Gunter. He gets shredded out, and Adapting picks Bevimonster up and brings him right back into the fray. Quick leap away from the Odin. At least saves his life for a little while longer, but how far are they willing to commit for this dive to take down the Odin, to take down Calvin? It's the Phoenix is the call as far as the distance that they will go. Adapting picks up Rapio. It's a 4 swing for Elysium, and that could just be the game and the set.
It should be. Bevy Monster does not have a lot left in the tank, and Elysium 5 strong on the Titan.
Adapting low. Bevy Monster goes in and blocks as much as he can against Angry and adapting. The Titan is doing some work, but Bevy Monster doing even more. But that work may not just be enough. Finds Trix tank and looks for adapting. Spudio's getting low. The Titan is also falling down. Angry gets bursted out. Bevy Monster ends with a triple kill, but that triple is just not quite enough. Elysium, they break their game 1 playing curse, and they close out the set with a 3-0 over Cozyx Fanclub.
Elysium, man, these guys are so hard to deal with. They've been dominant all year, and they continue to do so in the SCC playoffs. They are your champions from EU. Congratulations to the King and all of his boys.
Champions in the regular season and champions in the playoff. A huge congrats to Elysium. We'll see them and Cozyx Fanclub at the World Championship placements with a big win up here for Elysium. We're going to go ahead and take it to a break, and then we'll come back to the desk to close out our first set.
Confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a that's what they don't understand.
I'm back again like flu season. I broke records while loose leafing. I'm coming down my roof, leaving. Don't give a I don't care. Did the by my lonesome. No wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run. All I really want is my share. Get on my God, on my totem is nothing. In the discussion, all them feelings I throw all my pain on percussion. It's disgusting. I hear them bragging about that they did, and it do not move me, not in the least. They ain't been dropping no seeds in the soil, but swear that you on my spot at the feast. I've been on go mode, showboat, rowboat, wave ride. Cool shorty, too naughty, pool party, wet for the face ride. Annie up, penny down, hand me down, thrift store, old drip. New money, too funny, old shorty, talk about old. I'm on they now, can't get a pass now. I'm a cash cow, keeping it brash now. It's trash now, I'ma spaz out. I've been killing my lows and living on highs. You see in the skies the proof. You could just see in my eyes that there is no lies. I cannot disguise the truth. I've been duck dog, getting in my new merch, color duck sauce on the new couch with my chucks on. Get the on with that hate. I'm big cool on the small chat, cause I know now that I'm all that. Got a hawk guy on the ball cat, get the out of my face.
Talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a that's what they don't understand.
Elysium established their dominance with an exclamation point here in game number 3 and complete the 3-0 sweep up against Cozyx Fanclub. It was an incredible Cinderella run for the SOC representatives, but ultimately the number 1 seed in EU comes knocking, and it's time to answer the call. Elysium complete their dominant phase with the victory. Aggro and Trelly here to break it down for you. And Trelly, I gotta say, Cozyx Fanclub impressed me because that game I thought was over 5 minutes in when Elysium got that 4-for-0 on the red buff. I was like, all right, I guess I don't have to watch the rest of this. All of a sudden, it's a tie game. It's close. It's 200 gold lead for Elysium. Cozyx Fanclub working their way back in, but ultimately, this team just too good.
Yeah, they had some flashes of greatness there. They also had a lot of dropped opportunities. One where I believe Calvin dove the tier 2 and just did not have enough damage and just died to the tower at that point. There was a lot of good things going for them, but it's just unfortunately, this Elysium roster does not make many mistakes.
They just are too clean with it. In this duo lane that we spent all the time in the world talking about Coast and Calvin, it was really Tricksank and Spudio that were able to make it happen this time around. I mean, those two were absolutely fantastic, adapting all over the place. I mean, I feel like I've been saying it all week, but it's because he's been everywhere this week. I think adapting and Tricks, these two veteran leaders, really stepped up for the squad.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before, but this team didn't deal too well with the Fafnir as is. Brutalized bait was all over. I mean, as a soul, you really never want to try to get 3. You have no way to stop it, as we've said. And besides that, Terram had a really nice Titan defense, 1v5, tried his best, but it was just, as you said, these veteran leaders, Tricks and adapting, just absolutely stomping, diving as far as they could, and it was just too much.
Ultimately, Cozyx Fanclub come up a little bit short. Bevy Monster, for what it's worth, did have a much better performance on the Odin this time around in comparison to game number 2 of this set. 3-0-2, still not enough to topple the top dog in Europe. Elysium conclude a year that we thought that they would do exactly this, be the top team all year long, look nearly unstoppable, though teams did, of course, take games off them. They could bleed, but ultimately always made it through to the end. And they are your champions of the EU circuit playoffs here in phase number 2. But their year not done by any means, Charlie. Now they've got to prep for that world stage.
Oh yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see how this Elysium roster does compete against some of these SPL teams. There's always been some talk about how these guys, they were in the Pro League before. They've got some championships under their belt. They should be able to compete at this league, and we know that they can, so it's going to be very exciting to see how they fare up against some of these SPL teams.
Always a ton of fun. Very fun indeed. Elysium get the victory, and one of the big parts of it was Spudio, their ADC. He's joining us now for a post-game interview. Spud, thanks so much for taking the time. What do you think, how big of a deal do you think this 1-0 advantage was? Because you guys had struggled in game 1s in this tournament up until that point. Do you think having that game in hand really helped you today?
Yeah, I'd say so probably. I mean, we were just struggling to get off the mark in some of the sets. I think we drafted a little bit poorly in the game 1s previously, but I don't think everybody would have mattered because I think we were pretty on it today overall.
I'll say, I mean, that first draft, you guys top 3'd what? Geb, Morrigan, Cthulhu. I think that's probably a pretty good start to how that set went. What were the biggest adjustments you needed to make, though, up against Cozyx Fanclub from the first time you played them on Thursday until today?
I wouldn't say there were any massive adjustments, just sort of refining the picks and bans to make sure we were comfortable with what we got, and we thought they drafted quite poorly today. Like, we didn't expect to get what we got in the first game especially.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Overall, now you're coming out the top seed in this tournament. You're looking forward towards the world stage. What do you think you need to focus on improving on before that placement stage begins?
I think mainly our objective play. I think today was a lot better, but I think that's something like an area we could improve on for sure. But we're pretty confident going into it.
How could you not be? You guys have been great all year long. Very excited to see you play against the best of the best. Congrats on the win, Spudio, and we'll be seeing you at the placement stage.
Thank you.
I tend to agree with him there, Trelly. I thought they drafted a lot better today. I think that was a big difference maker for them. And as he said, that objective play, which has at times plagued this team, a lot better here on Championship Sunday.
Yeah, their picks and bans look great, and I think another point is that the enemy team, Cozyx Fanclub, I don't think they really had the grasp of what they were letting through. And Elysium, they should have been pretty happy with what they got, and it sounds like they were. They're going to have to look forward to those picks and ban strategies up against these pros as well.
I think so as well. Let's take a look at overall what the schedule has been for this event. I mean, it's been a ton of fun watching these European teams compete, but Elysium, the inevitable ends up concluding with them winning in the grand finals. Cozyx Fanclub with a great run, and Team Joystick also playing very, very well. If we take a look at the bracket, you'll see that Elysium was absolutely dominant here this week. A 2-1 over Cozyx Fanclub, and then the same over Joystick. And then with that one-game advantage, converting that into a 3-0 victory over Cozyx Fanclub. But a very competitive week here in Europe and in North America, for what it's worth. Europe was a lot of fun to watch. It had their own little individual meta start to form, and that Heimdall pick was really the one that I noticed that was really valued here in EU, but overall, a great games in Europe.
Yeah, it seemed that this team Elysium seemed to get better as the week went on. As we've said, they make these adaptations. They really just, after a game, they come back, they unwind, and then after they think about it, they're able to really just dive in and see what this team does and see what makes them tick, and they can come back very strong. And as we saw, a 2-1 into a 3-0, very different, even despite staying up one game, a 2-0 if you want to call it that, but still, very dominant performance.
That's what the best of the best do. They play the best when it matters the most, and that's certainly the case for Elysium. And with that, that concludes Europe in our competition with them, but we still have North America, and we can take a look at their schedule to see what you're ready to see. It's Sleekness up against the Winter Dogs. Sleekness, this team, the number 4 seed, not a lot of LAN experience across the entire team, if any. And they have come in and they are undefeated so far this weekend. And they are now up 1-0 in the best of 5 already, is because they are coming out of that winner's bracket side. Winter Dogs, though, they have really bounced back after a tough Thursday up against the Sleekness squad. 2-1 over the Artisans, 2-0 over the Hoofs, and now poised for revenge up against the team that knocked them down to the loser side.
Yes, Sleekness is already 2-0'd this roster, but we spoke to Kierme yesterday, and he said that he is very confident. He said that they've made the adaptations. They're ready for this matchup, and they think it's going to go a lot differently than it went earlier in the week.
I can't wait, man. This should be really fun to watch. Both of these teams playing absolutely wild picks. Ao Kwang, Assassin's Mid for Winter Dogs. I mean, who knows what we're going to see in this final matchup of the weekend. It should be a lot of fun, man. Sleekness looking undefeated. We'll see if they can keep that streak going. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with NA.